Hello, I'm Pastor Hille. Thank you for joining us for Faith Lutheran Church's Adult Forum series. We're calling this episode Songs for the Season. But before we get to our special guest this week, a brief reminder that during this time of social distancing, there is wonderful ministry coming out of the community that we call Faith Lutheran Church, right here in Whitehall, Ohio. Ministry that includes this very podcast. And if you would like to support the ministry of faith financially, please find the link labeled Giving in the description below. And now, on to our episode. Joining us here in Adult Forum this week is fellow ELCA pastor, multimedia groundbreaker, and longtime personal friend of mine, the good Reverend Jason Chesnut. Jason, how are you, my friend?
I'm great. Dan, can you please, can I just have a recording of you saying that? I think that would be enough. Just a recording of you so I can hold it high with my cell phone as I walk into places, you know? Like Dwight introducing people to the garden party, you know?
I mean, I appreciate that. I will be the Jim to your Dwight, sir.
Yeah, I don't know if that's a compliment or not, and I'm going with it either way.
Absolutely, man.
I'm doing great. Thank you for asking. Thank you for having me on. I've been kind of, you know, I mean, it's we're almost to the end of this year, this unforgettable year. So I'm thinking a lot about the future, and you know, otherwise I've been listening to some great Christmas songs. Can I just say, Christmas music? At any time you want to listen to it to your heart's desire, anybody who's listening, know this from a pastor. Like, you know, it's Advent technically, but you can listen to Christmas music if you need to listen to Christmas music. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
If that gives you life, I am here for it. And I usually start listening to Christmas music pretty early on, you know, once we hit December. So it was great to come up with this list is what I'm telling you.
Nice. I sat down and I had my short list of people I wanted on this topic. Our topic being, you know, our 10 favorite songs of the season, or Christmas songs, or festive songs. And I was like, who do I know who can pull as many things out of left field as I can and keep this list as interesting as possible? And I'm thankful for you and your time and being part of this. So, and I feel like we have a really good rapport as people as well. And we have to kind of like talk about why that is.
Why is that?
16 years?
15.
14, 15?
14.
Yeah. Because we were...
Either way, it's a teenager. Our friendship is a teenager.
Yes, yes. We were roommates for 2 weeks in graduate school at LSTC. We were...
The Lutheran School of Theology at Chicago.
Yes, we were roommates at Lutheran School of Theology at Chicago for about 2 weeks, and then you moved and I moved, and it was, you know, not because of each other. We just happened to move.
Yeah, but you gave me a nickname because you didn't know what my name was, and so you tell Brian Wise, I don't know, Joey Chestnut or something, and so then he calls me Joey. Like from this day forward. Like I'm on the phone with B Wise and he's like trying to get serious with me and he says, Joseph. It's all because of you.
I do what I can, man. I'm the giver, keep on giving.
No, but it's a long time. I mean, that's you know, that's a different period of time of life for me. So it's like we've gone through more than a decade and a half. In this church in this time, which is no small thing.
No, not at all. I mean, what started as roommates, we were co-interns at Bethany Evangelical Lutheran Church in the South Side of Chicago for a while, which has a whole host of memories in and of itself. We, do you remember we did a road trip together from Texas to Chicago?
Listen, do I remember? It's 21 hours. like we left very early in the morning and we got to Chicago very late. I mean, it was like the most you could do, and you did all of that driving. And I like to drive, and I offered to drive, and I would have stepped in if, but you were obviously comfortable doing the entire thing, which was impressive to me as a driver. I remember that trip very well.
I appreciate that.
You were geocaching the whole way up, man.
I was. Yeah, I was entertained. You know, like
He was geocaching y'all in 2009, and the album that for me, the album that remembers that is Elbow, that colors that time, because we were listening to Elbow, whichever, like Starlings or whatever came out in 2009, because we had another road trip in Wisconsin, so you get hit up the different state parks.
Yep.
Left very early that day, and we listened to a lot of the Polyphonic Spree.
Oh yeah, I was big into that at the time.
And you introduced me to one of the greatest songs about war from Tom Waits.
Yeah, that was on the. It was like track 2 on the "Bad As Me" record. The name of that track is but it has that great rhythm section, which is just like a military march.
It's haunting. It's haunting.
And then more recently, you contributed for our worship companion.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I had forgotten about that. That seems like a long time ago, but it wasn't.
No, it was a couple months ago. Yeah. And you were part of the worship companion that we used here at Faith. And that went out to, I think it was sent to like 4 or 5 different synods, like every church on those synods rosters. There's like, hey, here's this free resource, which was our goal from the start, was just to, help people feel connected during this really kind of isolating time.
It was great. It was a great resource. Yeah. Proud to be a part of it.
Yeah. So, man, you wear a lot of different hats with the work that you do, a lot of different hats. And I feel like if I try to ask one question, there's no way I can encompass everything that you do. So let me just ask you this. What have you been working on recently? What have you been up to? And what are you getting excited about?
Well, right now we're in the midst of an Advent devotional that I'm doing with the Reverend Tuhina Rash out in the Bay Area. I said out in the Bay Area, but now I am on the West Coast. So she's really down in the Bay Area, since I want to be directionally accurate. But we did I've always been interested in digital devotionals. And so, I mean, how we spend our time in digital spaces, and I feel like Advent is a great time just for Christians, right? It's our new year. It's a short amount of time. It's not as long as Lent. So you can easily do kind of word a day things. And I think kind of the strength in what we're doing this year, it's called Unmute Yourself. And we're trying to, taking words from this crazy year and sort of reworking the daily lectionary into that. And then just having fantastic contributors, right? People who are bringing different medium to the story, different media, So everything from images to words to the spoken word. And it also gives me and Tuhina a chance. Tuhina's a writer and I'm an editor, a filmmaker. And so I've been able to kind of do some visual reflections on the theme, and I love Advent. So that's just a quick plug for Advent, which we are right in the midst of.
Yeah. So what's the website to that Unmute Yourself project?
Medium.com/digital devotional. And so, and from there you can see like our previous years. The one that we got kind of semi-infamous for is 2016, but that includes swear words, and we didn't talk about that beforehand. Mm-hmm. So I won't offer it up, but you can find it pretty easily.
I'll put the link to that site where you can find all that in the description below for anybody who's looking for Advent resources, Lenten resources, anything like that. No, that's totally cool, man.
So that, I mean, that's one thing, it's sort of like on the whole different hats thing. I literally had a digital assistant for a time, and it's called 17hats.org. And it's true. You feel like you're wearing a lot of hats when you're kind of, doing the small business thing and kind of paying my bills through a lot of different sources of income, which has always been kind of my my goal. I feel just as the Holy Spirit might call us in from church to church, or from job to job, from location to location. I feel like the Spirit has kind of called me out into the edges of the church, and sometimes I think on our best days, some of us who are working kind of in the digital frontier are in the R&D department of the ELCA, and in research and development, I wish we got paid that way. But I feel like a lot of it is just throwing stuff at the wall and seeing what sticks. Aerosmith, I believe it could be the Rolling Stones. I'm being all the boomer bands look alike right now, but their lead singer, so whichever one, take your pick, talked about how they would do a time every day where they would dare to suck. It was Aerosmith. Dare to suck. I really did a whole every boomer is like there. I'm sorry, everybody. Aerosmith. And that's where they got like, some of their biggest hits, so that people would just get, I think when you allow people the fact that, like, listen, this is probably not going to happen. This is probably going to fail. So just think big, like just think the most crazy thing you can. And I'm hoping that's what's happening. I continue to work with the Sleigh project out of Baltimore. So it's a great time to be able to work digitally, remotely in this time. And so I'm thinking through with my work with them, I'm thinking through how can we translate into digital spaces some of these things that we're very specifically missing during a global pandemic.
Right.
And that will continue, the isolation will continue for a while, right? Even after the vaccines come out, it's just, there's still a long road ahead of us. And the digital aspect, just think about the minute that you share a live stream of worship on Sunday, when people do finally come back in person, you're absolutely, without question, going to have a remnant who still can't meet together. Yep. and probably shouldn't.
Right.
So that digital work that everybody's doing right now, that's not going away. If anything, it's just going to increase. Right.
The lid is off that box in such a big and powerful way.
Yeah, and it's that's exactly it. And the lid is off the box, and now it's been off for a while, and we've been living with what's coming out of that box, and it's going to continue to change. I mean, that's a powerful metaphor. That's what it is.
Yeah, I thought this past Pentecost was one of the most Pentecosty celebrations we've had since biblical day, because the story of Pentecost is speaking the gospel in so many languages so everybody can hear, and so many churches around the world were forced into figuring out new ways to communicate the gospel, which is the heart of that story.
Yeah, 100%. And they're doing it through different medium. I mean, to take that, which is 20 centuries ago, sometimes I'm trying not to say millennia because we rarely think in millennia, but if you can get your head around a century and then think of that times 20, that's what we're talking about when it comes to the early Christian community. And I feel like, they were going through a shift. I mean, that was an oral time.
Yep.
Orality was the way they communicated. And then we've already gone through a shift from that into a written word. And now I think we're having another shift from like written into digital, into the digital age. And it feels very, Pentecost is an apt story.
Yeah.
Pentecost is, I mean, really, if if Advent is the start of the year, right? I mean, Pentecost is the start of the church.
Yep.
And yeah, that's a really good point. And all the different voices coming together and the ways that people can do it. I thought it showed I thought Pentecost felt very, like very ancient and future, like you said. It was the first time probably in 20 centuries, and it was like, and this is how it will look going forward.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Hey, I do want to take a minute. You mentioned the Slate project. For anybody who's not familiar with Slate and the work you've been doing there, you want to give us that, give us a little background?
Sure, yeah. So that was just an idea of trying to imagine Christianity as a slate and then wiping the slate clean. So the metaphor, sort of a clean slate, a blank slate. You have to go back pretty far to get that metaphor. We don't write on slates anymore, but I thought it was enough to just consider, like, we were just going to have a project, and that project was, let's just wipe away as much of the crap that has kind of built up over the last 20 centuries that sort of divide us from the early Christians. If we could get back to the basics, as it were, and yet, still have an eye for the future. So that's sort of what the Slate project is. And now it's morphed into, we have an in the flesh, face-to-face gathering in Baltimore City run by the fantastic Reverend Jen DiFrancesco. And then I am the digital aspect. I'm the digital pastor, content creator, that can work literally across a continent for the same ministry, because we have two different audiences, right? We have sort of the core of people who follow us on social media, and then we have the core of people who gather in Baltimore and they eat together. They get a warm meal twice a week, once with worship and once with Bible study. Nice. And I mean, and that to me is, like, that's as core basic Christianity as you can get, right?
Yeah.
Studying the scriptures, eating together, breaking bread together. And then I think the digital piece that I've been running has been very much since 2013, when we started. I've just been trying to think about and create content that can kind of mirror that. So what would a sermon look like? Well, I started doing like weekly videos that have now morphed into more of like larger projects of trying to digitally tell Bible stories. But I was trying to take aspects of, and now I think my sermon comes through on a live thing. So we've incorporated a live piece on Tuesday nights at 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern. That's sort of called Badass Bible. That's trying to talk about and tell stories, often stories I've learned by heart, and then, having a little bit of a commentary on it as a digital pastor, right? I mean, I'm saying this thinking as a pastor, trying to understand, like, what is my role here? And then we gather together on Thursday nights. It's called Slate Speak over on Twitter, and have a very healthy weekly conversation that's been happening. I should say it's not like healthy conversation. That's weird, but like, it's a healthy group of people. It's a healthy number that's been going once a week for 5 years. Right. So like, and to be able to recognize, and I've constantly had to, when I was a mission developer full-time, which I am not anymore, I had to fill out these forms from the ELCA that were from the 1990s. And I get that maybe when you wrote a form in 1885, that form could last you until like 1940, 1950, 1960 maybe.
Right.
1990 barely lasted into the mid 2000s.
Yeah.
And now we're into another, what I would say, kind of another shift of like, I'm not knocking on doors in 2013. I think that I'm very specifically trying to imagine what is it like to knock on a door online.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
How do I connect with people online? If people are on their phones scrolling, how do I get content where they're scrolling? Now, at the same time, none of this ever diminishes or takes away from or replaces face-to-face. If anything, I think the pandemic has taught us how important face-to-face is.
Right. And
at the same time, recognizing the immense shift in the way that we communicate. Can you imagine? I mean, the last time a pandemic like this hit was a century ago.
Right.
Can you imagine living in 1918, 1919? That was the year my grandfather was born, 1919, 1920. And imagining at that moment what it would look like in 2020, it's just, there's no way.
No.
It's impossible.
Yeah.
I think the best we can do is maybe 10 years ahead. But my point is, like, I think we're not just living in a time of change. We're living in a time of exponential change. Like, it's not just change that's happening. It's the rate of that change that's happening.
Right.
I think so.
And I think that one of the really wonderful things that the ELCA does, as broad and as wide as it is that, I made this comment to you before we started recording. I was talking about you to another friend of mine earlier this week about this podcast and that sort of thing. And I go, I would identify my ministerial model as being based in 1950, like that old school, like I sit in the office, I'm going to engage in all those really traditional ways. Mm-hmm. I was like, and then there's, Jason Chesnut, who is kind of like priming us for the church of the year 2050, right? Like mm-hmm. in our ministry, in our strengths, in the way we work creatively and all of these things. And it takes all kinds, like it takes both sides of that spectrum to exist in the right now.
The entire body, Paul says, every member of it, contributes to the body of Christ. I am fully not in 1950, but I fully get why that's still important too.
Yeah.
Right. I think that's a great. Yeah. And so we're about 30 years away from mine, about 70 years from yours. So not exactly a half and half, but that's perfect. That's exactly it. And I've seen other churches work that way.
Oh yeah.
Epiphany Lutheran in Baltimore City is a fantastic example now with the Reverend Christine Myers Parker. Just a fantastic old school, fully traditional, and yet with still open to the world, right? But just when you go in there, it's a different era, but in good ways, not in any of the bad ways, right?
Yeah.
But just some of those models and some of that heavy attention on the face to face, right? And in ways in which, like, a true parish for the neighborhood. A building that people can use, right? Like, that constant thing, which again, the pandemic is just the absolute worst for in every way. Yep. It must be exhausting.
It's, not only does it force you to be creative, but it forces you, and I'm sure you do see the same thing, it forces your creative process to change. I was thinking about this 2 weeks ago. For the decade I lived in New England, or for the 8 years I lived in New England, the way I wrote Christmas sermons was I would go to Manhattan for a weekend and I would just kind of like immerse myself in culture and museums and do that sort of thing. And I would find the nugget that I would turn into the Christmas sermon. And, then I moved to Ohio, which was a little bit of a change, but I kind of did the same thing. I went downtown. The Columbus Museum of Art is great, connecting with people. This year, like, all right, cool, nothing's open. So I have to not only rethink what I'm doing, but all of those steps that I used to take to get to where I was going. And that's it's not that the game has changed. It's that getting to the game has changed as well. Like every part of that reality is shifted.
Yeah, because we're social creatures, right?
Yep.
It's very weird to be in a new place and not be able just to go on my favorite coffee shop hunt, right?
Yeah.
And I'm the type of person who, when I've taken little road trips, I mean, I'm always wanting to stop in to businesses that are open. Like I just love doing it.
Yeah.
And that's just, I mean, that's a very specific, a very specific, in the large scheme of things, not that big of a deal, but just a very specific thing of taking away the stuff that I do that contributes to my process as well.
Yeah.
The amount of work that I get done outside of my home is a lot. And this year, right, it's just like, no, you got to do it all there.
Yep. All right, man. So let's crack into these top 10 lists.
I can't wait.
Top 10 favorite. And I thought about who do I get to start first. I would like to start because that means that we end with you. And you always give the guest the last word.
Look at you appealing to my vanity. I'm here for it.
All right. So top 10 favorite Christmas songs, seasonal songs, songs about snow, whatever the case may be. For number 10 for me, it's a song that scratches a huge nostalgic itch. It's one of the first Christmas songs I really enjoy getting really giddy about whenever I heard it as a kid. It is definitely a gimmick song. It's Grandma Got Run Over by a Reindeer by Elmo and Patsy.
You would start with that one.
Hear me out on this. It's a Christmas song, without a doubt, Reindeer, and it's about Christmas parties. My mother hated it, which might be a reason that I loved it, because it would drive her crazy when I would put on the tape or the CD. I love at the end of the third verse when they're talking about what do we do with Grandma's presents now that she's dead. And it's like, do we open them up or do we send them back? And everyone's like, send it back. We want nothing to do with her. Like, it's done, which is kind of a sad thought, right? Which compounds on the fact that the second verse is literally about a funeral. Like, verse 1, she dies. Verse 2 is a funeral. Verse 3, they're like, all right, that lady's done. Get everything out. Like, it's just, and it's so catchy. The first time you hear the refrain.
It's very catchy.
Yeah. The first time you hear the refrain, you're good, right? How many Christmas songs do we hear that's that upbeat, that like catchy, and also about the death of a loved one, and then Grandpa hitting on one of the cousins after the fact?
It's just good, wholesome fun is what it is.
It's like, I don't know, it's like this really weird kind of drunk William Faulkner Christmas song. I mean, which you
don't need to say drunk William Faulkner. You can just say William Faulkner.
That's true. That's true. It's the gift that, and so if I went back and watched the music video, right? And so if you watch the music video in the third verse, Grandma comes down out of the chimney and she's dressed like Santa, and it's like, oh, maybe she was faking her own death. But lyrically, there's no faking her death. There is the first verse, she is gored to death by reindeer, and the second verse is the funeral. I do like, Merry Christmas, kids. Mortality. Like,
oh man. Yeah. Bravo.
I love it. And I also think that, I think that one of the reasons that my mom probably hated is that my mom loved her mother, and my grandmother was a saint. And it has to be weird if you're a parent and your child is very excited about singing about a song about grandma getting hit by a reindeer when you as the parent love your mother. Like, that has to be a weird head game at a certain point. So I can understand why she tried to push us away. But again, also as a child, anytime I could poke the bear, very much like myself as an adult, I would go head into.
Yeah. Quick note, I don't have this much thought on all of my songs.
No worries, yeah.
Okay. All right. I love you, and I didn't want you to be talking and then me come in and just like give the list. I mean, I have some thoughts, but you're clearly the music man here. Can I call you the music man? I love it. Continue.
Oh no, that's my number 10. Grandma got run over by a reindeer.
Oh, got it. Okay.
And also, just for anybody listening, what I'll do is I'll take my list and I'll take your list, and I'll write them out and I'll put them in the descriptions below for anybody who wants to look up any of these songs.
Will you put mine in bold to signify importance?
Can I do that on YouTube?
I don't know. I don't know what you can format in YouTube, Hille. I don't know. Okay. Well, my number 10.
Yep.
Is Once in Royal David City by Sufjan Stevens. Now, I love the hymn Once in Royal David City. It's a great little hymn, and I hate how often it's sung. I'm sorry, that sounded bad. I hate how it's often sung, which is dragging, like funereal, if we even know how to play it at all. And so this is also just a little bit of a theme. I'm very white. I'm going to be talking about Stevens a couple of times. Listen, that dude not only gave us his Christmas albums in the 2000s in peak time for me to like really fall in love with music, but also he did hymns that I grew up with that I loved.
Yeah.
That I hadn't heard before. So that's how Once in Royal David City made it on the list. And Sufjan Stevens has a great version of it. Feels very up-tempo and peppy like a march, which is what it's supposed to be. Yeah, it's a great Once in Royal David City. I know, y'all, it sounds like I'm the prime minister trying to, just singing Good King Wenceslas when we're trying to get kids to sing with us. Once in Royal David City is not like a sing-along song, but top 10 lists, they go deep. So This is, Nice.
And Sufjan as a musician, he's second to none. As an arranger, he's also second to none.
Yeah, he's real good. Right?
And those Christmas records were just brilliant on anything that allows us to hear something we've known forever, but yet to hear it for the first time.
That's what I'm saying.
That's
just it.
Spot on. I remember there was a guy who did a acoustic hymn project. I want to say his name was Chris Rice, and he did this really kind of like coffee shop acoustic cover of A Mighty Fortress, and it was just brilliant. It was just,
it was. Yeah.
Again, I grew up in the Lutheran church. Like I'm pretty much had those the lyrics to A Mighty Fortress tattooed on me when I was 3. But I never heard it that way before. And the way he turned those words and set those phrases were amazing. Nice.
So good.
All right, number 9. It's called The St. Stephen's Day Murders, and it's by the Chieftains and Elvis Costello. So the Chieftains they're an Irish folk band, very traditional Irish folk band. Elvis Costello wrote the words and the vocal melody. The Festival of St. Stephen is December 26th. It's the day after Christmas. And the whole gist of the song is it's, like lunch or dinner, the day after Christmas, all the families gathered together, and all of the good behavior that everybody's been on for Christmas Eve and Christmas Day has worn very thin. And the siblings are looking at one another and the family are looking at one another. And it's a song about that feeling of looking at your extended family and going, I'm going to kill you if you don't stop that.
Very relatable.
Drunk, and the siblings are like yelling at one another, and the parents are frustrated, and the friends of the friends are like, and it's this beautiful Irish jig. It's this beautiful Irish melody. And the refrain is like, and the St. Stephen's Day Murders, because it's all about like, your glee and your good intentions running out the day after Christmas. And now, like, if you don't get out of my house, I'm going to end you.
I love it. I mean, it's just so many themes in there of Christ,
I love it.
I love it.
Hey, you can't have resurrection without death.
Hey, listen, I'm 100% with you.
Mm.
All right, number 9 from me is Cool Yule by Louis Armstrong.
Nice.
Love that sound. Love his voice just in general, but he just had this way of, especially some of his stuff, the trumpets are just timeless.
Yeah.
I love that song. I just love, it just feels very Christmassy. Can't describe it any better than that.
Well, I mean, his tone is so warm, and like, especially the playing on that track, it is the sound of a Christmas fire. It's not the sound of a fire; it's the sound of a Christmas. It is the sound of a warm chestnut.
Yeah, can we also talk about that song though, just for a quick hot second, because I hate it forever and ever. Chestnuts roasting on an open fire. I still get people singing that to me, and they sing it to me. It was at the doctor's office, as though I had never heard it before. She honestly thought, and I was like, God bless America, you know?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
All right, number 8.
Number 8, here we go. Early 2000 hair metal band The Darkness released a Christmas single called Christmas Time, Don't Let the Bells End. If you love hair metal and you love over-the-top theatrics and you want a Christmas song that is over-the-top hair metal theatrics, that's going to check all those boxes. I was doing a deep dive on kind of lyrical content, and from the best that I can understand, it's a song, it's in a really weird way a Christmas kind of love song that he wrote about whomever he was dating. And he was like, hey, we're both off the road and we get to have the Christmas holidays, and I don't want Christmas to end because as soon as Christmas ends, I got to go back on the road and you got to go back to work. And so it's this whole like, yeah, don't let the bells end because I don't want to deal with the reality on the other side of Christmas. Again, that's just my interpretation of it, but that seems to be in those lyrics. But yeah, if you like crazy falsettos, tight spandex, and really, really big guitars, that's all the Christmas you need.
Yeah, who doesn't? Right? Who doesn't? That's good. Number 8 from me. It's another. It's a biblical thing that's connected with your murder of St. Stephen's. It's the Coventry Carol, and I have to choose Pentatonix rendition of this. And I know that there are a lot of people. I'm thinking specifically of the Reverend Derek Weston, but perhaps even our dear host is thinking, why in God's name do I have to hear the word Pentatonix ever again? I get it. I hesitated on it, but I really love that they did the entire thing, because even bands who have tried to do even a little bit of the carol, they might do just a verse. And here's why, right? It's December 28th, the slaughter of the innocents, the story of Herod going after the baby Jesus. It's genocide. People on the run for their lives. It is not, shall we say, have any of the normal Christmas emotions attached to it. Right. But it was a carol. It's a 17th century carol originating out of England. And it is brutal. And I think it's important. And I love that somebody came up with a song. And I generally like carols. I mean, like I like lessons in carols. I'm kind of I love green sleeves and stuff like that. So it's just like, I kind of already fall for it. And then they're telling this story that we just never sing, we never hear. And I love that there were ancestors in our faith who thought we should sing songs about the terrifying stuff too.
Right. Nice. I've never heard their arrangement of it, but I mean, there's a lot of talent happening in Pentatonix, and I would totally, like.
Listen, they're good. I mean, they're talented.
Yeah.
I know right now. I know I can hear people screaming in my head from thousands of miles away, and I just wanted to name that. And Sometimes though, I get caught up in a Pentatonix thing. It was playing in the background of a mall. I have to go to the mall for this Apple store, y'all. It's like masked up the entire time I'm running. But man, they are playing Pentatonix, like Pentatonix for the Beatles. And I'm just like, I can't. After 2 songs, I'm like, it's all the same. It's all the same.
Yep. Nice. All right, where are we? Number 7 now, right?
Number 7.
All right, so making one of 2 appearances on my list is the Killers.
Nice.
Because the Killers every year they write and record a brand new Christmas song, and so the first one is going to be Cowboys Christmas Ball, which is this amazing Southwestern jingle of a Christmas party happening at a small town tavern in Nevada, and it is, if you watch the video, it is 80% Bonanza or Gunsmoke or any Clint Eastwood thing with all your hosted characters, the farmers and the sheriff and all that sort of thing. And if you watch the video, it's also like 20% Star Trek because a robot shows up in the back end, like Mystery Science Theater style.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah, it's absurd and it's ridiculous and it's a melody that you just can't shake. And I just love again, it's almost like this different view of a culture celebrating Christmas. Like, what would it look like to be at a Christmas party on Gunsmoke with a really great jingle?
Mm.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it. My number 7 is This Christmas by Donny Hathaway. It's got a kind of a, what kind of feel does it have? I kind of just want to kind of listen to it for a quick second.
Is that this? No, I'm thinking Last Christmas. Last Christmas is the Last Christmas I Gave You My Heart one, right?
Yeah. This one starts out with the great little da 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 da. I just did that on your podcast. I don't care. I did it. It never translates. Why am I trying to hum something over Zoom to you? Come on, Jason. Anyways, it's real good. It's I wish there was even like a little it came out in 1990. It's called a Donny Hathaway collection. Anyways, you should check it out. It's very fun.
Nice.
It's like kind of funky. It's got a nice little I picture a lot of these songs kind of like here are the 2 things I want to feel at Christmas time, Pastor Hille. I want to feel like I'm connected to other people,
right?
Especially now. So like Christmas parties, like I like songs that I think I would put on a playlist for a party, for a holiday party. And then the other time, I just want to feel really like Advent Christmas, like my pastor sort of like I feel super guilty, but I know I'm fine, but I'm also a wreck and I'm just a horrible person. God, please love me. Like that kind of stuff,
Yeah.
Christmas kind of brings that out of me because I think it's just a fantastic story and that we wait for it for so long. The Advent has us waiting for it for so long. It's just, so anyways, my point of all this is those are the 2 different feelings I'm going for. So that's why we are going back and forth between like, oh my God, what is Jason choosing? And that one would like be a great banger for like a Christmas holiday party. So just take that into mind. Take that into consideration.
Nice.
As you said, a lot of my thoughts come out of left field. The thing is, now, like I feel like I don't live in left field anymore. I've like left I'm left of left field. You know what I'm saying? I can see left field outside my window.
Nice. And let's be honest, the art of making a really good Christmas banger for a party, that is a very specific skill set. I'm everything on my list, and I have one Christmas banger, and it's my number 2. And I will point that out when we get there.
I appreciate that.
I am bangerless.
Well, in that note, I think I have 2 bangers on here. My number 5 is a banger.
My number 5 is not, but my 5 is hilarious.
Well, let's go to your Let's go to your 6 now.
Let's do number 6. Great Athens, Georgia-based Southern rock band, the Drive-By Truckers. on a collection of B-sides, had a track called Mrs. Claus's Kimono. It's a very meandering, very dark. It's like the long black veil of Christmas songs. And the plot of the song is there is a elf who has a crush on Mrs. Claus, and he wants to like knock off Santa so he can date her.
Naturally.
You also have Rudolph, who has a crush on Winona, who Santa has been a little too friendly with. So Rudolph and the elf conspire. They put hard drugs in Santa's sleigh.
Yeah.
Call the Grinch and the police on Santa in Georgia, get him arrested, and then the elf dates Mrs. Claus, and then Rudolph dates Winona.
Okay, objection. The Grinch is in league with the cops. I don't know.
That's the only plot hole. That's the only plot hole.
Can I just say I want to call the Grinch up when I need him. It's in my honorable mentions. That's all I can say. But you're a mean one, Mr. Grinch. Oh, come on.
Mm-hmm.
Classic.
I mean, it's good.
Everybody.
Shout outs here.
Yeah, 100%. Just thank God for the Grinch. That is a crazy story, Dan Hille.
Yeah, it's a great song. Again, it's very Faulkner-esque. It's very like dirty South, very sad South. But it's also just so absurd. It's hilarious, like the whole time. And Patterson Hood's doing vocals on that. And he does it with this like gristle snarl, which is just amazing. And yeah, I mean, I'd say it's definitely probably a rated R Christmas song because, you know, there's like murdering and hard drugs and all that kind of stuff. But I'd put that on a Christmas playlist for like after the kids go to bed kind of thing.
Christmas After Dark, man.
Christmas After Dark. What about you, man? What do you got, number 6?
Number 6 is Last Christmas by Wham. Listen, I love Wham.
Yes.
And I've been notified on Twitter that Last Christmas, the lyrics, once you pay attention to them, are not great, but I will hear that screaming George Michael all day long. I just that yearning voice. Plus, I just feel like my heart is all over the place in Christmas. And fair warning, a lot of times I don't listen to lyrics of songs. I just really like how they sound, and then I end up sending them to people, and they're like, "Jason, did you listen?" And I'm like, "No, I did not listen to that. I'm sorry," and I have to go back and like pay attention. So Last Christmas is one of those, but I just feel like Last Christmas sounds like Christmas.
Yeah.
I feel like some 80s songs specifically sound like Christmas to me because I grew up in the 80s.
Yep.
There it is. I'm an elder millennial.
Mm-hmm.
Nice to meet you. That's my number 6.
Nice. So number 5 is my only one that comes from a Christmas special. And it comes from the...
Is it the Peanuts? Is it the Peanuts? Please tell me it's the Peanuts.
No. I may have to put that in my honorable mention, though. It comes from the Colbert Christmas special.
Oh, yes.
Stephen Colbert and Elvis Costello doing There Are Much Worse Things to Believe In. And I just, because the opening verse is that premise of like, all right, it's the season and you may be cynical and this not be for you, but like at worst, we're talking about the savior of the world and like a beast man who gives away presents. And for me, like, the orchestration on it, the arrangement's perfect. It sounds like piano in front of a fire, which is kind of how it was recorded. But the lyrical highlight for me is they sing, some folks believe in nothing, but if you believe in nothing, then what's to keep the nothing from coming for you?
Wow.
Which is just what a beautiful, like, take that nihilism, you know what I mean? Like, that's such a beautiful kind of sentiment in this overall hilarious song that is so saccharine sweet about all these horrible things that are far, far, far worse than the birth of the Messiah or Santa.
You are a voice of your time, Dan Hille.
I got nothing, man. I just try to keep myself entertained.
I love it. I love it. My number 5 is Sleigh Ride by Ella Fitzgerald, which I also think would make a nice little, it's not a banger, but it's definitely, it can hang with bangers.
Yeah.
It's a good song. And it just makes me feel all like I'm in another era. And I like it, kind of transports me. Plus, it's on a crap ton of Christmas movies that I love.
Oh, nice.
Like one of the best, which is Elf.
Never seen it.
Yeah, it's incredible. I also love Die Hard, if we want to get into Christmas movies, which I know we're not here for, but just a shout out, because I think there's been this horrible rumor going around that Die Hard isn't a Christmas movie. And if it's not a Christmas movie, I don't know what is.
Right.
And don't give me Love Actually. I'm okay with Love Actually, but don't give me that. It has not aged well.
Love Actually, yeah. I was just talking about Love Actually last night, actually.
Nice.
But just as a quick aside, About a Boy, I'm going to put that in the Christmas movie genre. Hugh Grant.
Very good.
Oh, that one. That
Very good.
Yeah.
And Nicholas Hoult grew up and he was in Mad Max Fury Road, among other things. He's everywhere now. Yeah.
Huh.
He is not going to Macaulay Culkin it, man. He's going to stay in the game for a while.
That's true. Oh, Macaulay Culkin.
I mean, listen, he came back for Saved. I love Macaulay Culkin. He just did other things. Totally.
Yeah, he did come back for Saved, and Saved was amazing. Also,
incredible.
Saved was produced and partially financed by Michael Stipe from REM.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
Gen Xers for the win.
That's it, right?
Number
4. Seminal cult indie rock legends Big Star in 1974-75 released a song called Jesus Christ. And so a little background here. In the late 60s, there was a band called the Box Tops who had a top 10 single with The Letter, right? Like, give me a ticket for an airplane. Ain't got time. That song, right?
Okay.
The vocalist for the Box Tops was a 15-year-old kid from Tennessee named Alex Chilton. So Alex Chilton had big money in his teens and then wanted to start another band, and he started Big Star. And most people, if they're looking for a Big Star point of reference, if you ever watched That 70s Show, the opening credits, Hanging Out, that is a Big Star song, though it's covered by Cheap Trick.
Got it.
Yeah. And anyway, so long story short, Alex Chilton woke up hungover and probably tripping on a few things. And it was December in Memphis, Tennessee. And he was in Big Star, and he thought to himself, if I write a Christmas song, then I get royalties every single year because it'll get played every December. And so he stumbled into a Baptist church, picked up a hymn book, flipped through the pages, and literally wrote down all the first lines and titles of Christmas songs that he could find, stuck them in order, and wrote a melody for it. So the first 3 lines of it are, angels from the realms of glory, stars shone bright above, once in David's royal city, was bathed in the light of love. Jesus Christ is born today. It's literally, he was like, people will buy this and I'll get rich. Yep.
I mean, that is wild.
Yeah. So thank you, Alex Chilton, for that, amongst a host of other really weird stuff. But yeah, Big Star, man. Big Star is where it's at.
My number 4 comes from Queen. Thank God It's Christmas.
Mm-hmm.
Allow me to read. This was written in, 1972, maybe? We've had our share of tears. We've had our hopes and fears. It's been a long, hard year, but now it's Christmas. Yes, it's Christmas. Thank God it's Christmas.
How poignant is that, especially in 2020 in this dumpster fire of a year?
Yeah. Oh, my love, we live in troubled days. Oh, my friend, we have the strangest ways. All my friends on this one day of days. Thank God it's Christmas. I rest my case. Also, it's Queen. I mean, Queen. I wish that they would make biopics that didn't suck.
Agreed.
I think the Elton John one doesn't suck. I haven't seen it yet.
Yeah, me neither. Huh. Speaking of Elton John, though, transitioning to my number 3.
Yes.
It's the second appearance of the Killers, and it's the Killers with Elton John doing
Nice.
Joseph, Better You Than Me, which is this amazing song that wrestles with, like, it's a one-sided conversation asking Joseph all these questions, like, how are you handling being the father of Jesus? Like, how do you handle the rumors that had to happen when, everybody in town's like, that's right, Mary got pregnant by God. Or, like, do you ever wish you were just back at being a carpenter and didn't have to do anything else? And in the last verse, especially, hearing Brandon Flowers and Elton John swap back the harmonies as they're, singing, Better You Than Me. It is Vegas turned up to 30. And just a brilliant, brilliant song that really tries to dive into the Joseph character, which is not really something a lot of Christmas carols do.
No, they don't. You're right. Yeah. I mean, to be fair, he's not really there in the Bible story either.
No, it's true. Yeah, it's very true.
Well, that's an interesting, I like it. He does kind of get off. I mean, all those early days of Jesus, I always imagine Jesus in the early days like the Jesus in Lamb by Christopher Moore.
Yeah. Oh, exactly.
I'm like, it must have been rough for Joseph, though. Like, you're not the dad. You still got to be a dad. Like, I can't even. That's good. That was number 3.
Yep.
Yeah. My number 3 is from Sting. He sings a version. It's called Gabriel's Message, which is my favorite Christmas hymn. Really, I'm sorry. It's my favorite Advent hymn. That is based off of the hymn, which I now, of course, cannot find the name of it.
The Magnificat?
Yeah. It's not the I mean, I see it here as Gabriel's Message too, but it's in our ELWs as something different. Mm-hmm. Anyways, this is one of those times, Dan Hille, where I'm like, I fully need a producer.
No, I get that, man.
But anyways, one of my favorite hymns, and it's focused on Mary. So back to your point about Joseph, what the story really is, what the gospel spent a lot of time with is Mary, especially in Luke.
Yep.
And so I love it's a French hymn, and I love that Sting picked it up. That was awesome. And he kind of did his own take on it. I just love Sting too. So forgive me. I feel like I've sinned in the eyes of a lot of music people. That's my guess. I don't know.
No, we should have just got like Dan Schwant on speed dial or something.
Oh, the angel Gabriel from heaven came.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
With wings as drifted snow, with eyes of flame. It's very syncopated and beautiful. Yeah, number 265 in the Cranberry Hymnal for those of you following along at home.
Nice. Huh.
It's not a banger. It's Sting. It's very, sad and whiny, but I like it.
Yeah, I mean, Sting kind of got out of the banger club after Roxanne.
100%.
I don't know. But
listen, if Roxanne was the price to pay, that's a great song.
Yeah. I'm not turning my nose up at that. So speaking of bangers, my number 2.
Oh, here we go. Look at you with all the segues. Perfect.
Yeah. Band called the Starbright Singers. You love it. I love it. We all love it. The most famous animal of the season, Dominic the Italian Christmas donkey.
Dominic.
Love it. It comes on the radio, man. I'm turning it up to 20. I'm rolling down the windows. I'm going to, if I could use that as a prelude or a postlude or an offertory, I would. It's absurd. It's ridiculous. It's a great little story. Yeah, man. And you know what it is? A mentor of mine introduced me to this idea that in his home, when he sets up his nativity, he has, the manger and all that kind of stuff. And it started with all the normal nativity pieces. And then him and his wife traveled a lot. And whenever they traveled, they would buy little tchotchkes and statues from the places that they traveled, the West or the Holy Land or, Manhattan or whatever the case is. And then he had a son, and his son got into G.I. Joe and all that kind of stuff. So year after year, they started adding more things to their nativity. So their nativity would be the Holy Family and all these statues, and then G.I. Joes, and then he had a granddaughter, and then My Little Pony showed up, and then, so now his nativity is like 70 pieces, and it's all these things that represent places he's been, people he knows, his children, his grandchildren, and he calls it the magnetic manger because the birth of Christ is the center of time and everything's drawn into it. And so I love that idea. Anytime we can put a new character in this magnetic manger across time in our minds. So heck yeah, Dominic, put him in there,
Amen. Amen.
And plus that tune, man, it's nothing puts me in a better mood.
That's what we need this Christmas,
Yeah. You know what I need this
Songs
Christmas?
like that.
I need the T-Pain remix of Dominic.
We'll put it out into the universe, see what happens.
Yeah. That's what
What?
That's what Twitter's for.
It's true. I have had conversations with Christopher Moore on Twitter. I'm here to say.
Nice.
I mean, it was, again, asking, when is the movie for Lamb being made? And again, him saying, the rights have been purchased, and me saying, don't give me lawyers talk, tell me for real. And then him ignoring me. That's been
Yeah.
baby steps. My number 2, it's the Christmas song with Tim Reynolds and Dave freaking Matthews.
All right.
Listen to me. My top 2 are also songs I've learned to play on the guitar, and I just find them to be fantastic for almost any. I mean, like, they're both church safe, right? And they're just fantastic if you wanted to lead any kind of. I mean, it works well during communion. I just find it to be. I'm being very task focused right now, but I was thinking about songs that would be like fantastic for using in different circumstances. And of course, during the process of learning these songs, I just fall in love with them. So, but anyways, it's Dave Matthews, who, like, whatever, but he does give an interesting little account of Jesus. I'm always interested in hearing what people have to say who are not Christian, who are just kind of like saying, well, here's what I hear from that story.
Yeah.
Oftentimes it's very poignant.
Yeah. And with the conversation we just had about our kind of number 3s about like Joseph and Mary, the first line of that song is, she was a girl, he was her boyfriend, right?
Yeah.
So even that, Dave, when he's framing the story, takes a very kind of like Lucan approach to it.
It does. It's very Lucan. I wrote a letter to Dave Matthews telling him it was a Lucan. No, I didn't, but that would be great.
Nice. All right, so that's our number 2. Let's talk honorable mentions. I don't know, man. You mentioned honorable mentions on the back of my mind. I've been trying to think about.
Sure.
What I would throw on there. I would say just one of my favorite holiday records is the Polyphonic Spree put out that record called Holiday Dream. It's all these amazing alternative choral arrangements with like rock band undertones for songs that you've heard a million times, which again is kind of touches on themes that we brought up here. So I would say like that entire record is just really good. Also, there was an 80s metal band called Sleigh who did a song called "Merry Christmas." That again is very 80s, very kind of hair metally. It's a really fun Christmas tune, and there's a brilliant acoustic cover of Noel Gallagher from Oasis covering it, which is
Wow.
how I found out about it. And like for me, all things kind of stop at Noel, so I'm like,
Fully.
yeah.
My honorable mentions is mostly the Oh Hellos. They have a family Christmas album, and it is just fantastic, but it doesn't really work as like one specific thing. They have different acts. So Act 1, Act 2, Act 3, Act 4, and they go through a lot of different songs. I don't know. I dig their vibe. I'm always on the lookout for bands that seem pretty familiar with the Christian story, but I also like their music.
Yeah.
Right. Instead of like forcing that one good song out of Jars of Clay, like God Rest You Merry Gentlemen, which is just like a song that I don't even know why I like. But they did a version of it, which is my other honorable mention. Jars of Clay did a version of God Rest You Merry Gentlemen. And my final one is I Saw Mama Kissing Santa Claus by the Jackson 5. Also a great song. A little bit of a banger.
Absolutely. Actually, I have one other honorable mention, and I was originally going to put it in my top 10, but I took it off because I thought it may be the only song you and I overlapped on. And now the name is slipping me, but it was one you introduced me to probably 10 years ago or so. Snow is Silver? Was that?
Snow is Silver. Is it a Sufjan song?
No. Oh my gosh, hold on. I keep an old school MacBook, which is essentially a glorified MP3 player in my office.
I love it.
Yeah. No, it was one that you shot to me, and again, it was almost like Bon Iver-esque.
Oh yeah, maybe it's from what is their name? Not City and Color. City and Color?
Maybe. Man.
Lowlights?
That's it.
Yeah. Snow is Silver.
Is that the name of it?
Yep.
Yep.
I'll have to check that one out again. Thank you.
Yeah, Snow is Silver. Lowlights, 2005, off the record, Dark End Road. Absolutely gorgeous, absolutely haunting. It sounds like a snowfall on the most beautiful of winter evenings.
I love it. That's my other honorable mention is the In the Bleak Midwinter. I just like that as a hymn. It'd be cool to hear. I don't know if I've heard a really good version of it yet, though. I'll go hunting for that.
Nice. All right, man. Time for number one.
Number one.
My number one, Grandma Got Run Over by a Reindeer was obviously like the first song I remember and kind of like really kind of got into in that little kid kind of way. But the first like Christmas song that wasn't a hymn that ever really caught my attention and I got excited to hear every year. So again, I'm kind of going back to that nostalgia itch.
Yeah.
Back in the 80s, Band-Aid, Do They Know It's Christmas?
Do They Know It's Christmas? That is a good song.
Yeah, the beginning of the charity era of singles, the single that eventually gets us to Live Aid and that whole concert experience, because they were both Bob Geldof joints. The weirdest and worst philosophical thing Bono has ever sang in his life.
Interesting.
Because in that first verse, Bono has that line where they're talking about people starving in Africa, and Bono's line is, "Tonight, thank God it's them instead of you." Which is just a really weird kind of thing. Actually, when they re-recorded it
in 2004.
Yeah, for like the 30th anniversary or whatnot, and had like Ed Sheeran and One Direction and Chris Martin and Guy Garvey and all these kind of people. Tom Jones was on the remake, actually. And Bono came back to do that line, and he changed the line to make it not really like philosophically appalling. So, yeah.
Well, good for Bono to change, man.
Yeah.
Is that the point of the story?
Yeah, that's really it. That's really it.
Listen, I literally was listening to that like before we hopped on the call. Great song. Nice choice. So my number one is, well, it's just very different. It's from Anaïs Mitchell, who does these kind of haunting single guitar and her voice. And she tells a story. What's that?
Is that who wrote Hadestown?
Yes, it is. Nicely done. So yeah, Hadestown was her her creation, and this song is called "The Song of the Magi." Theologically, it's brilliant, and just another song that I think it sets Jesus inside his hometown today, right? Which is, it's very hard to travel to the Holy Land. The last time I was there was just last year in 2019, without experiencing. It's so weird to sing things like "A Little Town in Bethlehem" and then go to Bethlehem, right? And so I think the Song of the Magi really, it just hits it in that way. It's not a song I'll ever hear on Christmas radio. I don't think it would ever even be considered a Christmas song, although it clearly is. It's about the birth of Christ. But just placing him today, it's theologically so brilliant that it's my number one.
Nice.
And I've learned it by heart, right? And to play it. And so just kind of, it occupies a corner of my heart. But it's not a banger. And it's not even like a Christmas song. Like, it doesn't feel like a Christmas song. It's never going to be in a Christmas movie. But I love that I broke all my rules for number one.
Nice. Cool, man. Hey, this has been so much fun, man.
So much fun.
And so, yeah, shoot me. What we'll do is we'll put a list of all these songs. I can probably find everything on YouTube, so I'll do a list of the songs with accompanying videos. If you want to hear any of the 20-plus songs that we've talked about, that'll be in a link in the description below. Also, if you want to check out what the good Reverend Chesnut is doing with Advent Devotions, with the Slate Project, we'll make sure all those links are in the description below. Jason, we've been friends for a long time, man, and it's always good to catch up, and thanks so much for everything you do.
Always good to catch up. You, my friend, are a scholar and a gentleman. I like that we're colleagues. I like that we're friends. And I like that I just have a ton of really crazy stories in my life that involve you.
Same. Very, very true. But, you know, they're the kind of stories that whenever we tell, we have to change all the names. Just for
all the names and most of the words, to be honest.
It's true, man. Hey, well, again, thank you so much, man. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me on, brother. Take care of yourself.